Simon, my best friend, drowned where his ankle leash, when he was paddleboarding, got wrapped around a mooring, a boat mooring in moving water in an estuary on an incoming tide. And the pressure of that water on Simon restricted him being able to reach his ankle to release the leash. And because of that, he drowned. So for me, it's the legacy is really about the education and getting out there about the understanding of wearing the right leash in the right environment. And I think there is changes. It is starting to happen. The manufacturers have been waking up to it. I know that British Canoeing, who are here today, are looking at their policy and helping in that and supporting where they can. The complexities around changing safety policy and going through all the right procedures. And I think that's the key thing for me, is just the legacy. One of Simon's legacies, he'll have hopefully a few in many areas that he was active, but on this particular, I just know that he would hate to see this happen again through something similar, where it should be a pretty straightforward area to change.
Well, thank you for that, Sam. Now we're joined by Lee from British Canoeing. You're the governing body for this sport, which is very much an emerging sport. You have been researching the issue of leashes, haven't you? Can you talk through where you're up to at this moment?
Yeah, we've seen a significant increase in the amount of people taking to the waters on stand-up paddleboards, and the type of information and safety advice that we've been given on leashes has been under review for the last several weeks in terms of ensuring that the right messaging is going out. I think what we've seen over the last several months is that people's understanding of what leash they should be wearing needs more work on it. So what we started to do is we started to look at ensuring that we're giving the right information out to the right people, ensuring that people understand that actually when they're in any flow of water and there's a risk of a snag or an entrapment, they wear a quick release belt system. If they are general supping in areas that have got no snag or entanglement risk, then they can obviously be recommended to wear an ankle leash. So this is the type of work we're doing at the moment. We are shortly going to be releasing a video to hopefully promote that particular awareness, as well as an infographic that will support that to allow people to be able to make the right choices.
Is it quite a confusing thing to give a clear message about? Because there seems to be different thoughts on different leashes and different situations. And I understand you've done lots of research about when leashes work best in different situations. It's not always crystal clear, is it?
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of variables to why it might be confusing. And I think the main area that people that go out to buy stand-up paddleboards initially, usually the manufacturers will supply it with an ankle leash, and that's what they'll tend to access. And what we've seen also within social media and a lot of other organisations giving out similar advice, but it is slightly different. I think what's really clear for us is that if there's any flow of water, then we would be recommending a quick release belt system. If there's any risk of snag or entrapment, definitely, yet again, a quick release belt system. So it is quite clear to be able to give that type of information. I think a lot of it is down to what the individual might buy at the time of purchase. And what we need to do is we need to work closely with manufacturers and hopefully be able to give that advice at the point of purchase.
Leo, I think it's great that you guys are moving in that direction and updating your advice on it. But we all understand it's an emerging sport, and through that there's going to be changes in safety advice in time as things are learned. And look, I think it's really important with what happened with Simon that we now understand the issues of ankle leashes in moving water. And I think the clarity on that message from you guys through new infographics, educating in how you guys go about doing that, I think will be really, really important, because I think the manufacturers will listen to you as well, knowing that a lot of the manufacturers at the moment are still, despite campaigning from myself, certainly the sort of the cheaper mass market paddleboards, I'd call them, are still selling with ankle leashes, with a confused message around that. And what my concern is for the general public buying one of those paddleboards, they think that wearing that ankle leash is their safety equipment, because that's how it would be envisaged, and that's how these sort of accidents will happen again unless it's clear. So I think it's really to see how we can get you guys to support that with manufacturers, whether it's by conversations to their safety teams through that, or through safety events. I'm not sure exactly what the answer is to that. I've been pushing hard, and I think the support from you guys and however you can give it once your message has been updated would be hugely beneficial.
We've already made some headway with some manufacturers and distributors, which is good news. But this is at the start. So we've been working with some rather large retailers that are responsible, and they will link it to our infographics. But I do think there is a need for a raising awareness, but also an education. Really keen to explore how we can support that. Maybe some road shows or workshops that we can provide to just raise that awareness.
One thing Sam in the past suggested was having two types of leashes as standard when a paddleboard is sold, because naturally that would encourage somebody to ask the question, why is there two types of leashes? Is one leash suitable for certain circumstances, one for another? Do you imagine that we could get to that point? And is that something you're discussing with retailers at this moment?
This is a type of awareness that we are already working with some manufacturers on, in terms of retailers, to ensure that they provide the right safety messages. I think unfortunately, it's probably down to a price point, and the price point will always come back on to consumers. But I think if the safety message is that people should be wearing the right leashes for the right environment, so having two at their disposal seems the logical approach.
My view is that the boards should all be sold with both leashes, with a clear information, whether that's the infographics or about moving water, quick release belt, surf or lakes, an ankle leash is sufficient. I think that's really, really important, and I really hope the manufacturers do move to that, because the overall cost of a quick release belt is somewhere in the region of £15 to £25, and that's just buying them individually. So you can imagine as buying in bulk or creating them yourselves, it's going to be a fraction of that cost. So when you're talking of a cheap board at 300 and a high-end board at 1500, the scale of that and the importance of it, I think, sort of fall into insignificance really, on the overall element of it. So I really hope that they do follow suit on that. And look, I'll be continuing to campaign until they've all done that. The way I've done it so far is, the owners of the niche paddleboard firms that aren't part of the big retailers, you can imagine the sort of characters they are. A lot of them have come from paddleboarding and water sports themselves. They're very safety conscious, have jumped on it very, very quickly. But it's really when you're picking up into the bigger mass market sort of monstrous brands that these are very small elements for them, and it just sits at the bottom of a pile. So I'm just trying to use the tragic experience that I faced as leverage to get them to listen. And I think once that new messaging comes back through from the British Canoeing, that will help be able to push that further. And I hope just to be able to support Lee and their team in order to try and get that message across.
But just to add to that, how big a change with the advice you're now issuing with this new infographic, how big a change is that from before?
It is a subtle change. It is a subtle change because we've always said around having waist leashes and having a quick release system within a moving water flow environment. We're definitely now adding in the snag and entanglements that's actually to raise people's awareness. So we're now calling it a quick release belt system, so people can wear it over the buoyancy aid rather than just around the waist. I think people need to be aware that actually, the danger of a waist system crawling up underneath a buoyancy aid does create complications in itself. So we need to make sure that people are really aware that if they're wearing a buoyancy aid with a quick release belt system, that it needs to go on top. We also need to educate people about that quick release systems do rotate. And the quick release could be to the side, which makes it more problematic. I think also there's a need to raise people's awareness that just by wearing a quick release belt system doesn't mean that they are safe. I think there is a need for people to understand the environment that they're in. They need to understand their skill level, but also just by wearing a piece of kit doesn't mean that they're going to be skillful in using it. So they need to actually practice it and practice it in those particular conditions. And I don't mean going out and getting yourself in difficulty, but actually just being able to locate that quick release system is really important. So some training is just as important as just purchasing it and placing it on there when you go out for a paddle. So I think there is a bit more that we need to do together to raise people's awareness about wearing a quick release system in the appropriate environment where there is flowing water, where there is a snag or entrapment possibility, but also get them to think about where they're paddling, think about their skill level, and also with the equipment they're carrying or they're wearing, that they are trained or have got a good understanding of how to use it.